Let me share my screen, and I'll try to be as quick as I can, because the main interest is that the people who are connected to the webinar to get as much as they can from the discussions from us. So I think for me, I'll just take you through in terms of the implications in as far as the teleconnections between El Nino over Southern Africa. All right, so I'll go through these bullets as given here. I'll project something which has already been talked to by P and the others. I will not be talking to it, but I'll be showing it as a reference. So I'll show two slides, I think, or three, related to El Nino, and then the current and the past, and then I'll talk to the performance over the past. Unfortunately, I'm failing to connect to our server, so I couldn't pull some of the what you call the maps to showcase what happened in the past, but I was able to get some from Matthias. He just shared now, so at least I've got something to share with you in terms of the implications, and then also try to attempt in terms of what is likely to be the case as we move towards the summer season. So CSC, as the other colleagues have also indicated, is formulated by 60 member states. As you can see there, all those countries from Angola to Zimbabwe. The center is currently under demonstration. As per WMO, we've submitted our request for designation, so we're waiting for the interactions with WMO on that part. So it might be possible that before the end of this year, we might be designated similar to, I think, agreement and also like us. So the current state, as Pierre showed you, on the top left is the ENSO signal, which is showing you that we are moving towards a very strong ENSO signal, which is an El Nino signal, a warmer oceans. But when you look at the dipole, which Eunice talked to, when you look at the dipole, it's also showing a similar trend, but starting from July this year. So it is slightly delayed compared to the ENSO signal, as you see on your left. And then when you look at the other indicator that contributes to us is the Southern Atlantic Index, which will remain relatively neutral throughout the same period as given by the other maps. So this is just reference. Now, when you look into the past, I try to identify similar years which have got a similar start as this one, which are moving from an ENSO to an El Nino, and I discovered that there's none. The closest was they are way back into the past in the 70s, the 50s and the 70s. That's where you find a transition from La Nina to, so the closest that I could get was 1986, 87, which you can see there. You've got during DJF, we've got -3 moving, then becoming positive around JJA. So you can see there, so the years that are closely similar to the current year by magnitude, not by evolution, because that's what we need to also understand, because it's a webinar, it's a learning session. We look for evolution most of the time. We don't look for magnitude. But in this case, we don't have a similar year in the most recent history. So we are relying now on magnitude. So I've chosen 3 that I'll look to: 86, 87, 97, 98, and 2015, 16, which is most recent, as we have seen from Eunice maps. So I didn't finish here. I'll finish before I submit. So I was just documenting for somebody who wants to read that the similar seasons for us in Southern Africa is the 86, 87, 97, 98, and 2015, 2016. So the global classical teleconnection is what you see on your left, which shows that classically Southern Africa should be dry when you've got El Nino and East Africa should be wet, and where Tini should be relatively dry. So that's the classical. But in terms of practicality, if you look at the map on your right, I think, am I having the wrong map? I wanted 86, 87, but I think my colleague sent me the wrong one. So let me move to the next one. The next one I think is correct. So if you look at these maps, you look at the one on the left and you look at the one on the right, you can see that there is indeed that signal of a dry signal persistent over, but it's not as it is shown there on the classical map, because we can see that some parts of South Africa, they've got some wet signals there, and also Mozambique, bulk of it in the south. There are some parts which are showing a wet signal, but classically, as you see there, it takes the same classical picture extending, which we see especially with the positive Indian dipole. It makes East Africa, wet all the way, and so extending to Central Africa, especially Angola. You can see there, it's the signal as influenced by the positive Indian dipole. It gives us wet conditions over northern Mozambique, northern Malawi, Zambia, DRC, all the way to. So that signal is as influenced, as moderated by the what you call the positive DMI, which is the dipole. So, and also you can see for 2015-16, which was the most recent serious drought that affected us, you can see the signal shifts. It is not the same as you saw with the strong El Nino of 1997. You could see that the signal was in the central for that one. But if you look at this one, the signal is more pronounced over Madagascar, Mozambique, these coastal areas, east coastal areas, where it was more strong, and also parts of Botswana and South Africa. But you can see that there's a cut now between the two. So which means there has to be an influence for Angola from the tropical South Atlantic, and for Tanzania, I mean, for us, it means the Indian dipole was not as strong. So I'll try to add on this the signal as far as the drivers are concerned, because you can see there was a break, because they usually connect in a typical ENSO situation. So this one, there was a disconnect, and there was local effects. You can see there over parts of South Africa and Namibia. There were local effects. So it's not just the global driver alone, but you also have local effects impacting. So in terms of actual impact on the livelihoods now, you could see that the 97-98 was the one that was deemed to be the biggest, but not necessarily if you compare with the 2015-2016. The 2015-16 was the biggest. But in terms of agricultural production, it really affected agricultural output. But some parts of the region, because I was at national level at that time, I know that in Eswatini and eastern parts of South Africa, there was a bumper harvest during that very same period, whereas it was anticipated to be very dry. So there was a need now for countries like Zimbabwe and Zambia to increase food imports, whereas Zambia and Zimbabwe, by then, they used to be the major growers together with South Africa for maize, until Malawi also joined in later on. So now, if we look into what is expected into the future, this is just for the next 3 months, you can see that the impact, the effect of the La Nina, the weak La Nina that we've been having all along is still there. That's why we're still having flooding effects, where we've got extreme weather events occurring over Eastern Cape of South Africa, around these areas here. There's people dying there, rivers, and also we have got in Cape Town, we've got, because this is their rainfall season now, we've got storm surges as a result of the effect of the weak La Nina that has just dissipated. You can see even temperatures in the next coming months, they are going to be relatively lower in as far as that is concerned in terms of the coming 3 months. So you can see that it's not just El Nino now just changing, twisting immediately. There's going to be a transition, which is what I was talking about earlier on, the evolution. The evolution is what we should all be focusing on as forecasters and also as users, because that's the question to users. Look at the evolution. Don't look at the numbers in terms of the index of El Nino, but look at the evolution. Are we evolving towards a very dry situation? Where are we coming from? So we must know that nothing just happened overnight and just because the numbers are high, then everything is going to be dry. No, not necessarily. So now the typical
Kindly wrap up.
Oh yes, it's the last slide almost. The typical situation that is likely going to happen, I think I thought this was 86, 87, but I found it's 96, 97. But I will most likely go towards the 97, 98 or 90, 86, 87 situation as the most likely over the region. And also caution is that the higher ENSO signal does not mean drier conditions over Southern Africa. But yes, we do anticipate that the effects will have parts of the region that will experience drought, but not entirely that it's because of the signal, because of the number being high, then it means we will have very, and also to emphasize that there's no season in the recent future that has got a similar evolution as the one that we are looking at, and that we must also take into account that there will be other drivers that will have influence on the teleconnections from the ENSO signal. Thank you, Chair.